If you're listening to this podcast, it's probably because a child you love and care for is differently wired. Are they also struggling in their current educational setting, seen only for what they're doing wrong while longing for positive relationships with peers and others? Envision a world where your child's unique abilities are not just recognized, but celebrated. A world where they can connect with others and their true potential is seen and appreciated. The Strength-Based Assessment Lab's mission is to build a world for your child just like that. Through its innovative approach, it aims to empower students, families, educators, and professionals to create positive, effective, and collaborative learning experiences. Be a part of shaping a brighter future for your child. Visit www.bgs.edu to learn more about what a strength-based assessment could mean for your family. That's bgs.edu.
The calmer and clearer a parent can be, the better it's going to be because you're going to have the space to respond and not react. Whether the child is differently wired or not, the thing that I see is people are flying by the seat of their pants. So then you are going to be reactive because there's just no time to consider, right? And to make intentional choices and decisions.
Welcome to the Tilt Parenting Podcast, a podcast featuring interviews and conversations aimed at inspiring, informing, and supporting parents raising differently wired kids. I'm your host, Debbie Reber, and today we're going to talk about getting organized, specifically organizing our spaces and all the paperwork and material that we parents of differently wired kids have to track and keep records of. I know, right? I love this topic. I will admit to geeking out on the possibilities for organizing, and I know I'm not alone here. To talk about all of this, I'm bringing on a dear friend of mine who also happens to be an organizational guru, Lisa Viscardi, owner of Clarity by Lisa Viscardi. Lisa is known for helping her clients create systems that truly transform their lives. Because, as Lisa will discuss, getting organized and creating more clarity in our homes directly corresponds to the way we feel and experience our day-to-day lives. If you're a fan of Marie Kondo's book, The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up, you'll love this conversation because it takes things to a whole new, deeper level. And I will share that right after I recorded this episode with Lisa, I was so inspired that I immediately implemented one of her suggestions and have already noticed my personal level of overwhelm has lowered. Before I get to the episode, a quick little public service announcement. If you haven't already tried our free virtual Differently Wired 7-Day Challenge, I strongly encourage you to try it out. The challenge features short daily videos and a private Facebook group, all centered around helping parents be intentional and purposeful in parenting their atypical kids. More than 500 people have gone through the challenge, and the feedback we've gotten is that it's already making an immediate difference in their day-to-day life, which is exactly what we were hoping for. The challenge is free and it's ongoing. If you want to join us, sign up at tiltparenting.com/7day. And now I'll get on with the show. Hey, Lisa, welcome to the Tilt Parenting Podcast.
Hi, Debbie.
I am so happy to have you on the show. And just a little insider scoop for those of you listening, that Lisa and I go way, way, way back. And in fact, Lisa was pretty pivotal in helping me even come up with the name Tilt. So she's been along for the whole journey as a friend and supporter. So I'm really excited to be bringing you on the show today.
And I am very, very excited to be here.
Well, let's tell people why you're here. So can you tell us a little bit about your background, kind of the highlights of who you are and what you do, and how you got into the work that we're going to be discussing today?
So I worked, and you and I crossed paths in entertainment for a really long time in the kid business and did many different things. But then when we moved to California about 16 years ago, I was taking my daughter to preschool, and a woman there, we were talking about inside your bag, your purse, and she said, "You're so organized, you're so together. Can you come to my house and help me?" And I thought, that's strange. Okay. I mean, I knew I was organized. And I remember even my college roommate said, you have a place for everything. I guess I just didn't really know it was that different, or that I thought everybody was pretty together, I guess. But then when I look back, even when I was younger, I would go to kids' houses and fix their desks, and I was always rearranging shelf displays. So, I studied design, and I think clarity kind of chose me. It's just my orientation. My mother was very organized. I guess I picked it up, and well, it's become much deeper. I care about the way things look and the way things function. I remember when I learned the idea that form follows function.
Mm-hmm.
That was a profound thing for me to learn. And yeah, one client led to the next, and apparently it makes a big difference in people's lives. Yeah.
So tell us kind of specifically what you do with your clients through your work in clarity.
I'm a professional organizer, and even the word clarity, I was calling what I was doing clarity, because I guess it had occurred to me that's what I was helping people do, clarify their lives. And it's everything from kitchens to kids' rooms to the most important thing I think that I help people with is their command central, which is the place they organize their life, the place where everything happens. Usually it's the office or the desk area, and the place where theoretically, I believe, one should be planning from. And a lot of times there's talking involved. So it's somewhat, I act like a coach, a therapist, a friend. It's quite dimensional. I was with a new client this past week, and she thought, the work was really just about organizing stuff. But when you get into it, it's just so much deeper, and so much comes up from it, because clarity is about really getting clear and seeing what's going on. So that's on every level. It's reminding me, I remember when we wrote for one of your books, Chill, and I wrote that piece about getting clear. And I remember adding in, it even applies to friendships. It permeates your life. Once you get clear physically, there's more room to see what's really going on.
I think even just hearing you say that, it's such a powerful concept. And I think for everybody, but of course, I always relate my conversations with guests and with friends, with everyone, to what's happening in my world, and through Tilt, what's happening for so many parents raising differently wired kids. One thing most of us do not feel on a daily basis is clarity. Like, we don't feel clear because we're so often just confused with our day-to-day lives and what we're supposed to be doing next, and how we're supposed to be responding to this comment or this teacher email. There's so much feedback coming in that we often just don't have the space or the time or the energy to have this kind of clarity. And I know we all want it. I mean,
Well, all the more so in that situation, the calmer and clearer a parent can be, the better it's going to be, because you're going to have the space to respond and not react. Whether the child is differently wired or not, the thing that I see is people are flying by the seat of their pants. So then you are going to be reactive, because there's just no time to consider, right? And to make intentional choices and decisions. Now, the unpredictability with differently wired kids, and kids in general, right? It just keeps changing, and new stuff keeps coming up, and in your life actively. So I just think it's so critical to have as much in place that I call them stupid, simple systems, things that are framing everything, and the foundation and the organization of all the tools you need, or the scheduling, or whatever it is, as much of that in place with systems that work very, very easily so that there is more room to handle whatever comes up, you know?
Yes. So I want to make sure that I'm clear on what you're saying. And that is this idea that when we kind of take care of our space, our physical space, or put these kind of, as you call, stupid, simple systems in place and just get kind of a handle on all of that, then the rest kind of follows suit.
Well, I think there's room then for the life to happen in a way that is not as stressful.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying it's not going to be stressful, but the stuff that shouldn't be as stressful, which is stressful because there aren't systems for it, becomes easier so that that's taken care of. It's like a platform. It's like your foundation. So, for instance, a lot of parents tell me that when they were just taking care of themselves, that was easy, right? They were organized, they tell me.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they started having kids and then the kids started going to school, and like you're saying, the emails are coming and the artwork's coming in and the schoolwork's coming in, and then there has homework that has to go out and get done, then everything just multiplies and people get so overwhelmed. So each of those things, for instance, a way to edit the artwork that's coming in and the schoolwork that's coming in, what to save, what not to save, and then almost more importantly, well, both are important, where to put it. Mm-hmm. So if, a classic thing in organizing is everything needs a place of its own. So if you have systems set up and everything has a place of its own, it takes 5 seconds to put it away when you know where it goes. It takes a lot more time and there's a lot more disarray if you just start piling things up, right? So often the classic thing is people have piles everywhere and in drawers and in cabinets and just sort of randomness. Clarity is about intentionality and things not being random. A big thing is there's a backlog that's accumulated. So you really need to make a plan, and we can talk about the acronym, but you need to make a plan to deal with the backlog and then set up the system so that you can then live
right
in a higher functioning manner.
Yeah.
And have space for what is for sure going to come up.
How long does that, when you say backlog, that is so daunting to me. And I'm like looking at this closet to my left right now, which is where I have 4 years worth of homeschooling, like records and handouts. I don't know what I'm going to need or not need down the road. And, what is going through that backlog usually entail, like length of time?
Yeah, it's different depending on amounts and depending on the focus and attention each person can give to it. A lot of anxiety can come up as well when you're getting clear because it just creates space. And for some people, it's that they never learned, right? Like it was modeled for me in my home, but for some people, they just literally don't know how to make order of things. But for other people, the disarray services them. It's a little bit of a buffer, or, sometimes I say it can be used as an excuse. Mm-hmm. In your case, describing your closet, typically the size of a closet, it's not that large of a space. And it wouldn't take that long to assess, but you would need informing ideas to know, like you're saying, what to keep, what not to keep, right? So some of it's about attention. You're such a great critical thinker. It's that you haven't attended to that because it's not your priority, and it may not be your priority until whenever, mm-hmm, right? Mm-hmm. So right now you do have all of those records stored, and if that closet can still be used for that, that's fine. I also talk about macro and micro. In a macro sense, it sounds like you already have all of that stuff together. It's not in 5 different places in your home.
Mm-hmm.
when you decide that it's a priority to go through that, or you need easier access to history or whatever, for whatever reason, you need the space for whatever reason, you will focus on that. And then maybe we should go through the C.L.E.A.R method now.
Yeah, let's do it. Break it down for us.
Okay.
We'll be right back after this quick break. Darren and I are prepping for a big move at the moment, so we are fully leaning into any and everything that simplifies things, and that absolutely includes meal times. At a time when my executive functioning skills are being pushed to the limit, even planning and executing dinner for our family these days can feel like a really big lift. That's why I'm especially grateful for Green Chef, a meal service that offers pre-measured and prepped ingredients to my door. Each box is packed with foods you can feel good about, like whole fruits and vegetables, plus lean protein and whole grain options. In fact, one of the things I love most about Green Chef is that they offer options that prioritize gut and brain health, with science-backed recipes that feature ingredients like fiber, antioxidants, and omega-3 fatty acids. During this time of lots of stress, it feels really grounding to know we're supporting ourselves nutritionally. I will take all the support I can get. And Green Chef doesn't just cover dinner recipes. I can add high-quality breakfasts, lunches, and snacks to my weekly box from Green Market. Green Chef has a special offer for Tilt listeners. Go to greenchef.com/tilt50 and use code TILT50 to get 50% off plus 20% off your next 2 months. That's 50% off plus 20% off your next 2 months when you use the code TILT50 at greenchef.com/tilt50. Green Chef, the #1 meal kit for eating well. Maybe I've watched too many seasons of The Amazing Race, but every time I have to go somewhere on the subway, I treat it like a competition. It's all about making the right gut decisions about which route will get me there the fastest. Sometimes those decisions get me where I'm going early, and other times my gambles don't really pay off. Probiotics can't help with most gut decisions, but if your gut needs a little support, Ritual has your back. Their Synbiotic Plus, a 3-in-1 supplement, has clinically studied prebiotics, probiotics, and a postbiotic to support a balanced gut microbiome. I've been using Synbiotic Plus for about 6 months now, and it's become a core part of my morning routine. I take the mini capsule every morning while making my way through my inbox, whether I'm at home or I'm on the road, because it doesn't need to be refrigerated. And the capsule itself is delayed released, which helps it survive the harsh conditions of the upper GI tract for delivery to the colon. And that's exactly where we want it to go. Ritual invested in a study modeling the human colon, which showed that Synbiotic Plus significantly increased microbial diversity and the growth of beneficial bacteria. There's no more shame in your gut game. Synbiotic Plus and Ritual are here to celebrate, not hide your insides. Get 25% off your first month for a limited time at ritual.com/tilt. Start Ritual or add Synbiotic Plus to your subscription today. That's ritual.com/tilt for 25% off.
So I made an acronym called C.L.E.A.R because clarity is what you're going for. And it kind of just worked out that C stands for categorize. So within all of that paperwork, and this can be applied to almost anything, within all of that paperwork and records, there are different types of things. There might be medical records, there might be academic papers, there might be, what other kinds of things are in there? There might be health insurance things and
assessments, diagnoses. Yeah. Right.
So you categorize, you put everything that's the same together. Then you learn, I've been saving all of these, maybe all the health insurance records, and I don't need those anymore. Or I'm mixing everything together and it's crazy. You just learn what it is you're doing and what you've got. Just take a look at it.
Mm-hmm.
And it is another sort of standard organizing principle, right? And it is, do I need to keep all of these, all of those, all of these? Which of each kind of thing is really important for me to keep? I do want the history of all the assessments, and really I can put them in 3 binders and they're contained and I will always be able to look at them. Or I just need the first 3 pages of them or the summary or whatever it is, right? That's edit. And then the rest you can shred or recycle. And arrange is to put all of in each category, all of the same things together. What's the best way to contain this? Is it a binder? Is it a box? Are they folders? Are they files? What's the best way to contain this? Where is the best place to contain this? And arrange accordingly. And then revisit is, first of all, the maintenance of any system that you've set up. And also, there are a lot of rewords. Does it need to be revised? Does it need to be refreshed? Does it need to be rearranged, reworked, restored? I find there are a lot of rewords that work, but just to revisit the work. So again, it's categorize, learn, edit, arrange, revisit. And we're talking about just the one place with lots of papers, one closet. But when you think about areas of the home where there's clutter, so to speak, usually in those piles and drawers and cabinets, there's a large mix of unlike things is usually what happens. You know, there are general areas where the same stuff is together, and then it's about, could this be more aesthetic? Could it be higher functioning? You know, there's millions of different things we could talk about, details in these processes, but generally speaking, that's the process. And actually, I say millions. It's simple when you get down to it. It really just all is stuff. But like your closet, as I said, you're not, unless you think about it all the time, then maybe you want to do something about it, or you need stuff that you can't find, then maybe it's time to do something about it. But it's all just about making these intentional choices. You know, what someone at Soul Cycle the other day said, are you prioritizing your priorities? I loved that. And that's why I say command sent. You know, your whole house could be cluttered or in disarray or whatever. And I obviously think it's critical to clarify that stuff. But really, this command central and how to make the choices and prioritize things in your to-do list, et cetera, that's what's the most important thing, I think, you know, because it launches your day every day, or it should.
Yes. I want to hear more about Command Central. And I also just want to go back to your process for a moment, which I know your process, and I'm still, once again, as always happens when I speak with you, I'm having more aha moments. And, you know, I'm just thinking right now, I'm sending Asher off to camp this summer, and I realize that they're still waiting on some forms that I haven't gotten because they're in that closet somewhere. They are, you know, copies of his old IEP. They're copies of his initial assessment from, I don't know, even 2012 or something. And I kind of generally know where it is, but the thought of having a binder where I just have those things in, I pull them out when I need them, I photocopy them and stick them back in, you know, it's so simple and it would make my life so much easier. And I also know, you know, I've been on extended threads and Facebook groups of people just discussing this very thing because we have so many records, so many of us. We have various assessments and reports and, you know, correspondence. Some of us have medication things we have to keep track of. And so
even if all the medical things were together, all the medication things were together, and all the assessments were together, because it seems to me, and again, each thing is an assessment. So if everything were chronological, then you might have to remember, when did we do that? But maybe, like you're saying, if you broke it down into keeping all the assessments together, and that could be chronological, then keeping all the medications together, or the, you know, the prescriptions together. And, you know, maybe it's more, you would separate things out that way. Yeah, and I can't, you know, we can do a Skype afterwards and look at the closet. But I am so curious to see, because it definitely should not be that hard. These are just records. I mean, I don't mean to minimize it, but I bet you your bottom dollar that you could make it simpler.
Oh, I There's no doubt about it. I can make it simpler. That is lack of priority, as you said. And
exactly. It's really just attention, because if the document that is the list of everything you need to get is in at Command Central in your to-do box, and it's at the top because it's important, because that's a priority to get that done, or on your to-do list, Asher's camp papers are towards the top, then you just need to take that time and get that thing done.
Yeah. Yeah. You've mentioned Command Central, and I'm looking at a desk right now that has a hell of a lot of Post-its scattered throughout, all of which are priorities. Could you walk us through what Command Central is? Because it is something that I know would be really beneficial, again, because I know that many parents like me are having to track appointments, and there's just a lot on our plate that we're juggling beyond kind of what might be typically expected. So talk to us about Command Central.
So I really think the two most important aspects are the to-do list and the to-do box, even though you can't not have your calendar. But it's that the stuff that needs to get done just needs to all be in one place, so that when you're sitting at your desk, if you have 5 minutes or an hour, you quickly know what to look at, and that you've already spent some time planning about what's the most important thing that needs to get done. So Command Central is made up of a to-do list. It could be digital or written, a to-do box, and your computer. So on your computer, some people still do keep a paper calendar, but obviously, digital is makes everything easier, and it also, I think, has complicated a lot of things. But when the phone can have the list on it, and your computer can have the list on it, and the phone can have the calendar on it, and your computer can have the calendar on it, it does become seamless. And even with the calendar, you can add if your spouse or partner also needs to come to an appointment, right? You can invite them. It just streamlines things. So your calendar, and then there are your emails and your texts. So everything is, if it's all in files, so you talk about the closet, it depends, the proximity of whatever papers or items you need to do the work you need to do, or to help take care of your child, should be nearby this Command Central. A lot of it has to do with staying connected also to the to-do list and to whatever is in the to-do box. So if the to-do box is not merely an inbox, it's stuff you've already assessed and put in there, keeping the most important things at the top. So if there's a health insurance form or a camp to-do list or whatever it is that needs to get done, should be towards the top. So with your Post-its, they're all important. They're all things that need to get done. If they were, you have to cycle through them every day, looking at all of them. If they were on one list and you were spending some planning time, checking in the morning and the evening, if not during the day as well, you would be always looking at the top of that list, because you would have already spent some time planning what are the most important things. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. So how do you advocate people stay on top of things and stay organized? Because I love the picture you're painting, and I want that for myself. And I'm sure that listeners want that for themselves. But what does that maintenance look like? We'll be right back after this quick break. Hey there, it's Debbie. I love making this show and sharing conversations about how to support our awesome neurodivergent kids. I've seen how even one little insight from an interview can spark a big shift in daily life. But I know that raising complex kids can be messy and lonely. And just when we think we figured it out, something comes up that boots us right back to feeling overwhelmed and stuck. That's why I've poured everything into creating a way for parents like us navigating complex parenting journeys to join together and chart a path that feels positive, hopeful, and doable. It's the brand new Differently Wired Club experience. In the club, you'll get personal support from me and other seasoned parent coaches, 6 live calls every month where you can connect and get your personal questions answered, the opportunity to learn directly from authors and experts like I have on this show, monthly themes for getting specific and tactical, an exclusive private podcast feed, and the best, most generous community of parents. Seriously, these folks show up for themselves and each other, and that right there is really everything, because it's a daily reminder that we're not alone. Our kids aren't broken, and we have totally got this. The recently rebooted Differently Wired Club is on a brand new platform with its very own iOS and Android app. It is such a great space. However you learn, whatever your style, no matter the ages, genders, and neurodivergent profile of your children, the Differently Wired Club can help you cultivate the positive shifts you're hoping for. Join us today by going to tiltparenting.com/club. That's tiltparenting.com/club. I hope to see you on the inside.
If you like this show, there's a decent chance you'll also enjoy the Shameless Mom Academy. Hi, I'm Sarah Dean, the founder and host of the Shameless Mom Academy. The Shameless Mom Academy is a podcast for moms that centers moms more than it centers your kids. I'm not going to teach you how to make baby food or how to make your 3-year-old or 13-year-old stop having tantrums. Instead, I'm going to bring you back to yourself. For the last 20 years, I've been helping moms through growth and transformation. Inside the Shameless Mom Academy, I help you identify who you are and who you are becoming. Look, motherhood is hard. It brought me to my knees many times and sometimes still does. Returning to who I am and who I am becoming allows me to decide how to show up in all those sticky motherhood moments, but also in all my other relationships and in all the ways I show up in my various communities. So come check out the Shameless Mom Academy wherever you listen to podcasts. I'm willing to bet you'll leave feeling a little inspired and maybe even completely fired up. And you'll probably laugh a few times because I promise we never take ourselves too seriously over here. With 700 episodes to choose from, you're likely going to find something that sparks and speaks to you inside the Shameless Mom Academy.
Well, the maintenance, I think, is the easiest part. It's setting it up, and, it is a re-engineering if you're not used to it. So it's setting it up and then disciplining yourself to do it. But it becomes so second nature once it's there that it's not your problem. Getting stuff done is, and making the choices what needs to get done first is what you're dealing with. That's your challenge, or what you're actually doing. The maintenance of it becomes invisible. That's why I call them stupid simple systems, because to me, it seems so obvious, because it's just, I guess, even the way I develop or speak about how to do things is just makes so much sense to me, because it's the simplest, most minimal way to have information flow, right? I mean, a list with the priorities at the top. So literally, I look at sometimes the priorities, it all depends on the amounts of stuff people need to get done. But sometimes you can categorize them. Like, there are calls I need to make, things I need to purchase, and stuff I need to get done at home, right? So the calls, if you look at that part of your list, I can knock these 3 off before my day even gets started. Just take care of those easy things, get them off the list, and then get into, how I need to do Asher's cam form.
Yeah. Diving into the closet. Yeah. And yeah.
I'm sure intuitively, or you've set up systems even to write books. So all of this. It's just you're not applying it to, maybe you're not completely applying it to the planning. Well, you're such a planner, though. It's funny to me when you say that you're overwhelmed. Well, I know you're overwhelmed because you have so much to do and to deal with, but you are an organized person.
No, I am. I'm at my happiest when I'm organized, but I feel quite chaotic at the moment. And I do think it is more of a natural state of parents like me, because again, of that need to just be constantly responding and reacting to things. And that, you talked about that in the beginning of being in a reactive mode all the time. So I think that's what I think is so powerful about this work, and why I wanted to share it with listeners, is because if making these kinds of changes can help us feel more grounded and not have to be so reactive, that would really make a difference for not just our sanity, but our kids. And
yeah, it brings a great sense of relief. And when your energy is calmer, right? I mean, I'm sure there's a different tenor in the household, right?
oh my gosh, yes. Especially these kids are so tuned in with us.
Exactly. And if your mind is constantly running and not present with all the things that you need to do and get done, then that's not effective. So the way to manage that is to put it all down. Like with the to-do list, I say just write it to and in that case, sometimes Post-its are helpful. Just as quickly, if you have something you have to write down, just write it on a Post-it, something that you want to, don't want to forget. But then those Post-its need to make their way to the master list.
Yeah, yeah.
And be prioritized, But you don't want to just be constantly thinking of everything that you need to get done when you're with your child.
Right.
You want to be present.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you have, I'm just curious, a favorite app or apps that you recommend? I mean, because I do everything on paper, but I kind of love the idea of having this master to-do list on my computer and my phone.
So it's actually something I'd love to design, but...
Do it.
Yes, the C.L.E.A.R app. I simply use the notes on the phone and on the computer because I can see it in both places. And the notes allows you to have different lists. So I have like a life list and a work list so that if I just differentiate between those two things, the stuff I need to do for work and the stuff I just need to do logistics of life. Mm-hmm. And I literally keep it visible on my desktop, as do I the reminders. But I don't use reminders like put this in every week. I use it so for doctor's appointments, even structuring if you need to go somewhere every 6 months. So put a reminder that you need to go in 6 months. And then once you go to the doctor, manually put that to the next 6 months, as opposed to, because I don't like when reminders are constantly coming at you. Mm-hmm. It's more like the to-do list. It's more of a manual decision you're making. When people say I like to write it down, I even like to use the digital the same way, where you're more manually interacting with it, just because everything, you start to wake up a little bit more and become more intentional. Mm-hmm. And when you are, and you've given the presence, it's kind of like being present in your planning, then you can let go of it. And then you can be present with your kid.
Right. Yeah. I mean, half of it is just getting it out of your head. And so it's not swirling around in there, taking up space.
Exactly.
I guess we'll have to just put up with some notes function or some such thing until you get your app created. So we'll just be...
Well, because a lot of the software now I find much more complicated than it needs to be. And you're filling out all these different, it's just too dimensional. I think it should be simpler.
Yeah.
I think people don't have time to... I think watching TV now is so complicated, right? Like finding the show you want to see.
Yes.
It's crazy. So I tend to bring everything down to its simplest form. Mm-hmm. And its simplest form seems to be the easiest way to interact with it.
It's true. Our lives are so complicated. We have so many options.
Passwords alone. That's
my
this
gosh.
whole thing in the newspaper,
Yeah.
with what's going on. And they're talking about change your password every week. People can't change their password every week. They don't even know what their passwords are. It's crazy. And there are apps for that. It's gotten a little bit crazy. So I try to keep things simple.
Yeah.
And for these children, it seems like that's a really important thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and it's, as you said, it impacts our energy, which impacts their energy. I also think it's good modeling for our kids too, to see, because they are often so much going on, or their minds are moving really fast or they're interacting with the world in a more intense way. So helping them even see how they can create more clarity or calmness in their own life through what we model, I think is really cool too.
I completely agree. And I always tell parents, you want your children to learn how to do this. So it's not just going to happen. You need to learn how to do it so that you'll be modeling it for them, because there is so much going on. It back to your point about differently wired kids, it makes things a lot more grounded so that there's room for whatever is going on in their head or is going on for them.
Mm-hmm. Now, let me ask you a question about differently wired parents, because a lot of our community, the parents are differently wired as well. And so they could have challenges with organization or, because of the way that they move through the world. And it might feel really overwhelming to know how to do this. Like, I don't know if you have suggestions for us, even one simple tweak they could try out to make an impact.
Yeah, that's a great point, because a lot of my clients are differently wired, and we didn't label it as much when we were growing up, right? So people realize as they get older, oh, I am this way, there's a lot they can do, actually. And I think the first step is really making the choice, a conscious choice, just like anything else, that if their intention is to get clearer, that they're going to need to make some decisions about how to do that. And I think the exercise literally of one single to-do list, not 50 pieces of paper all over the place, just the discipline of writing down everything that one thinks they need to get done and then putting it in an order is a really good exercise. Sometimes it depends on the person, maybe just literally cleaning up a room or the kitchen or a cabinet or one pile, going through it. It's just the intention of, I'm going to do this. And I suppose the attention to do it. Mm-hmm. So it's a commitment that you need to make.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like that of just choosing one thing too. I know for me, when I'm feeling especially chaotic, one of the things I do is it's almost therapeutic or a form of meditation. I go into my closet and I refold my clothes, because having everything neatly on the shelf just feels so good to me.
Yeah. I like doing the laundry for the same reason. It's just like productive, therapeutic, and then it looks good.
Yeah.
And everything is kind of like that. So if there's an attention issue with it, I definitely think it could be very, very helpful for many people to get clearer.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Well, listen, I know that listeners are going to be curious to learn more about you. So I know that you've written for Mind, Body, Green, and I can leave links to stuff you've written on the website. But how else can people learn more about you?
I have a website, Clarity by LisaViscardi.com, and I'm on Instagram at Clarity by LV.
Okay. I will leave links to all of that contact info on the show notes, so listeners, you can check out. I do follow Lisa on Instagram, and I love your aesthetic, so I'm all over your content. But
Thank you.
I just want to thank you so much for this conversation. I knew this was going to be interesting. Selfishly, I knew that I was going to get something out of it. So I have some new to-dos on my to-do list, but I want to thank you for walking us through your process and just sharing these tips for us. Yeah, thanks so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It was fun.
You've been listening to the Tilt Parenting Podcast. For the show notes for this episode, including the resources we discussed and links to Lisa's website and Instagram page, visit tiltparenting.com/session65. Did you know that some of our production costs for the podcast are being offset by generous donations from listeners like you? We're now able to outsource our final post-production costs, which is fantastic and greatly appreciated, as producing a weekly podcast is more than a little time consuming. My goal is to eventually have all the post-production tasks outsourced. Hey, a girl can dream, right? If you like what we're doing here at the podcast and you'd like to help us reach our goal, please consider helping us cover some of the production costs. It's fast, easy, and pain-free, and for as little as $2 a month, you can make a positive impact here. To support us, visit patreon.com/tiltparenting. And lastly, if you like what you heard on today's episode and you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to our podcast on iTunes or leaving us a rating or a review. Both things help our podcast get more visibility. Thanks again for listening. For more information on Tilt Parenting, visit www.tiltparenting.com.
If you're a parent, I invite you to join us at the Mindful Mama podcast, where it's all about becoming a less irritable, more joyful parent. With sometimes hilarious and always thought-provoking experts and friends, at Mindful Mama, we know that you cannot give what you do not have. And when you have calm and peace within, then you can give it to your children. I'm Hunter Clark Fields, and I can't wait to see you there. Listen in to the Mindful Mama podcast.